The acrid smell of plasma discharge hung thick in the recycled air as Captain Marcus Vale surveyed the aftermath of another brutal skirmish. Bodies of fallen Zalani warriors littered the metallic floor of the asteroid mining station, their iridescent blue skin now dulled in death. His tactical suit clung to his sweat-dampened body, the weight of his pulse rifle familiar yet somehow heavier today. "Clean sweep, Vale," growled Lieutenant Torres, his scarred face splitting into a grim smile. "Command will be pleased. No survivors to interrogate this time." Marcus nodded tersely, but something twisted in his gut. 3 years of this endless war against the Zalani collective had worn away at his certainties. What had begun as humanity's righteous defense against alien aggression now felt like something darker, more complicated. A soft sound caught his attention, barely audible above the hum of the station's life support systems. He turned toward a collapsed section of the mining corridor, pulse rifle ready. There, partially hidden behind twisted metal debris, a figure moved. "Contact," he called out, advancing cautiously. His squad mates spread out behind him, weapons trained on the wreckage. The figure that emerged made Marcus's breath catch. She was unmistakably Zalani, but unlike any enemy combatant he'd encountered. Her skin shimmered with an almost ethereal blue-green luminescence, marked with intricate silver patterns that seemed to shift in the artificial light. Long, midnight black hair flowed over her shoulders, partially concealing pointed ears and high cheekbones. Her armor, sleek and form-fitting, bore the deep purple insignia of the Zalani Royal Guard. But it was her eyes that stopped him cold, large, luminous orbs of deep violet that held no fear, only defiance and an intelligence that cut through him like a blade. She sat propped against the debris, one leg clearly injured, purple blood seeping through a tear in her armor. Despite her obvious pain, she held herself with regal composure, chin lifted in proud defiance. "Well, well," Torres sneered, raising his weapon. "Looks like we found ourselves a royal. This one's worth 10 regular soldiers." The alien woman's gaze swept over them, lingering on Marcus. When she spoke, her voice was melodious despite its edge, her English accented but clear. "I am Zara Keth, 3rd Circle of the Royal Guard. I demand honorable treatment under the Articles of War." Torres laughed harshly. "Articles of War? Your people don't follow any rules, alien. Why should we?" "Because," Marcus found himself saying, stepping forward, "that's what separates us from them." His squad leader's face darkened. "Stand down, Vale. Orders are clear, no prisoners. These things are too dangerous to keep alive." Marcus watched as Zara's violet eyes met his, searching for something. In that moment, he saw not a monstrous enemy but a warrior who had fought with honor. During the battle, he'd witnessed her refuse to strike down wounded humans, focusing only on active combatants. She'd shown mercy when her own people had not. "She's wounded and unarmed," Marcus said quietly. "There's no honor in executing a helpless prisoner." "Honor?" Torres spat. "These creatures destroyed 3 human colonies. Millions dead, Vale. This is justice." But as Marcus looked at Zara, he saw something flicker in her expression, surprise, then something that might have been hope. She was studying him with those impossibly deep eyes, as if trying to solve a puzzle. "Your own code forbids the execution of surrendered enemies," she said softly, her gaze never leaving Marcus. "I invoke the right of mercy under Terran military law, Section 7. Torres raised his rifle to his shoulder. "Enough of this. Step aside, Vale." Time seemed to slow. Marcus saw Torres's finger tighten on the trigger, saw the resigned acceptance that flashed across Zara's beautiful features. Without conscious thought, he moved. His rifle swung up, striking Torres's weapon aside just as it discharged. The plasma bolt went wide, scorching the wall. Before anyone could react, Marcus had his sidearm pressed against Torres's temple. "Stand down," Marcus ordered, his voice deadly calm. "All of you." The remaining squad members, Johnson, Patel, and Rodriguez, froze, their weapons uncertain between their captain and their lieutenant. "You've lost your mind," Torres snarled. "She's the enemy, Vale. They're all the enemy." "Maybe," Marcus replied, not moving his weapon. "But I won't be part of a war crime. Lower your weapons, now." "You're making a mistake," Johnson warned, though his rifle dipped slightly. "Command won't stand for this." Marcus's mind raced. He was crossing a line from which there could be no return. But looking at Zara, seeing the way she watched him with growing wonder, he knew he couldn't stand by and watch her execution. "Patel, Rodriguez, escort Lieutenant Torres back to the shuttle. Johnson, help me get the prisoner aboard." "This is mutiny," Torres growled, but he allowed himself to be led away. "You'll hang for this, Vale." Once they were alone, Marcus knelt beside Zara, holstering his weapon. Up close, her alien beauty was even more striking. Her skin seemed to pulse with inner light, and he could smell something like exotic flowers mixed with ozone. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why save an enemy?" Marcus met her gaze, feeling something shift inside his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced in years of warfare. "Because you're not just an enemy. You're someone who showed mercy when you didn't have to. Someone who fights with honor." Zara's lips curved into the faintest smile, transforming her entire face. "You may have just sacrificed everything for a stranger." "Maybe," Marcus admitted, carefully examining her wounded leg. "But some things are worth sacrificing for." As he helped her to her feet, her body pressed briefly against his, and he felt an electric connection that had nothing to do with her alien physiology. Their eyes met again, and this time he saw something new in those violet depths: gratitude, yes, but something deeper. Something that made his heart race. "What happens now?" she asked as they made their way slowly toward the extraction point. Marcus thought of the court-martial that awaited him, the disgrace, the likely execution for treason. But looking at this remarkable woman leaning on his arm, trusting him despite everything that stood between them, he felt a strange sense of peace. "Now," he said, "we figure out how to survive what comes next. Together." The word hung between them, full of possibility and promise. As they walked through the devastated mining station, two beings from warring species who had found something unexpected in each other's eyes, Marcus realized his life had just changed forever. Behind them, the war continued. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the slim hope that love might indeed conquer even the deepest hatred. The medical bay aboard the refugee transport Haven's Dream hummed with quiet efficiency as Nira Valls carefully examined her latest patient. The Zolani healer's four graceful arms moved with practiced precision, her pearl-white skin shimmering with concentration patterns as she worked. Her large, silver eyes, common among her subspecies, reflected both professional concern and growing curiosity about the injured human before her. Jackson Reed tried not to wince as Nira's scanning device passed over his fractured ribs. The human engineer had seen better days, his auburn hair was matted with dried blood, his usually bright green eyes dulled with pain and exhaustion. 3 days had passed since he'd helped Marcus and Zara escape the military tribunal on Kepler Station, and the consequences were still catching up to him. "The internal bleeding has stopped," Nira said, her voice carrying the musical quality typical of her people. "But these fractures will take time to heal properly. You humans are remarkably fragile." Despite his pain, Jackson managed a weak smile. "Thanks for the bedside manner, document really boosts morale." Nira's expression softened, a faint blush of deeper pearl spreading across her cheeks. "I apologize. I meant no offense. Your species' resilience in other areas is, quite impressive." Their eyes met for a moment longer than strictly necessary, and Jackson felt something flutter in his chest that had nothing to do with his injuries. Over the past few days, he'd found himself looking forward to Nira's medical visits more than he cared to admit. The medical bay door slid open with a soft hiss, and Marcus entered supporting Zara, whose leg wound was healing slowly but steadily. The tension between the human captain and his Zolani charge had evolved into something deeper, their stolen glances and gentle touches spoke of feelings neither dared voice aloud. "How's our patient, Nira?" Marcus asked, settling Zara onto an adjacent medical bed. "Stubborn," Nira replied with what might have been humor. "Much like his captain, from what I observe." Zara's melodious laugh filled the small space. "She has your measure, Marcus Vale." The use of his full name in her accent sent a visible shiver through Marcus. Over their 3 days together, such moments had become more frequent, small intimacies that bridged the gap between their species. "The Haven's dream will reach the sanctuary colony within 6 hours, Jackson said, shifting carefully on the medical bed. "From there, we'll be beyond both human and Zalani military jurisdiction." "And what exactly is this sanctuary colony?" Zara asked, her violet eyes curious but wary. Nira's 4 hands stilled in their work. "A place where the forgotten ones go. Refugees from both sides of this war who've lost everything, family, homes, purpose. It was founded 5 years ago by those who refused to accept that our species must be eternal enemies." "Mixed populations?" Marcus asked, clearly intrigued. "Humans, Zalani, and several other species caught in the crossfire," Jackson confirmed. "It's not paradise, resources are limited, trust comes hard, and old prejudices die slowly. But it's home to about 10,000 beings who've chosen peace over war." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "All passengers, prepare for system transition. We'll be entering sanctuary space in 30 minutes. As the announcement faded, a comfortable silence settled over the medical bay. Marcus found himself studying Zara's profile as she gazed out the small porthole at the swirling hyperspace tunnel beyond. The artificial light caught the silver patterns in her skin, making them seem to dance. When she turned and caught him watching, neither looked away. "Nervous?" he asked softly. "Hopeful," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "For the first time in years, I'm hopeful." Across the bay, Jackson watched Nira organize her medical supplies with fluid grace. "What made you become a healer?" he asked. Nira's hands paused, and for a moment her silver eyes grew distant. "My family were warriors, like most of my clan. But I could never bring myself to take a life, even in battle. Among my people, this was shameful." "Not shameful," Jackson said firmly. "Noble. The galaxy needs more healers and fewer warriors." "Is that why you became an engineer? To build rather than destroy?" Jackson nodded. "I wanted to create things that would outlast any war. Bridges, habitats, communication networks, connections between people." He paused, meeting her gaze. "Maybe connections between species too." The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of hyperspace, and through the porthole, a blue-green world came into view. Unlike the heavily industrialized planets of human space or the crystalline cities of Zalani worlds, this planet looked wild and untamed, with small settlements scattered across its continents like jewels on velvet. "Welcome to Sanctuary," came the pilot's voice over the intercom. "Population mixed, problems shared, hope still alive." As the transport descended through the atmosphere, the 4 passengers pressed close to the portholes, watching their new home grow larger below them. The main settlement appeared to be built in a series of concentric circles around a central hub, with architecture that blended human geometric practicality with Zalani organic curves. "It's beautiful," Zara breathed, unconsciously leaning against Marcus's shoulder. The landing was smooth, and soon they were disembarking onto a bustling spaceport that defied everything they'd been taught about human-Zalani relations. Beings of both species worked side by side, unloading cargo and directing traffic. Children, both human and Zalani, played together in small parks between the landing pads. A tall woman with graying hair and kind eyes approached them. Her simple clothing bore no military insignia, but she carried herself with unmistakable authority. "Welcome to Sanctuary," she said, her smile genuine and warm. "I'm Administrator Elena Cross. We've been expecting you." Marcus stepped forward cautiously. "We're grateful for the refuge, but we should warn you, both our governments will likely consider us fugitives. Elena's laugh was rich and knowing. Captain Vale, half our population consists of fugitives from one government or another. The other half are refugees who've lost everything to this endless war. You'll fit right in. She gestured toward a small group of mixed humans and Zalani waiting nearby. These are our orientation team. They'll help you find housing, work assignments, and whatever else you need to start over. A young Zalani male with deep blue skin stepped forward, addressing Zara in their native tongue. Her response was animated, clearly relieved to speak her own language again. But Jackson noticed she kept glancing back at Marcus, as if afraid he might disappear. The language barrier can be challenging at first, Elena observed, following his gaze. But love has a way of transcending such obstacles. Love? Marcus asked, startled. Elena's smile was knowing. Captain, in my 5 years running this colony, I've learned to recognize the signs. The way you two look at each other, the way you unconsciously move to protect her, the way she gravitates toward you despite everything that should keep you apart. She shrugged. It's not the first time we've seen it happen here. As if summoned by their conversation, Zara returned to Marcus's side, her face slightly flushed with excitement. They say there's a library here with texts from dozens of worlds. And workshops where different species share their knowledge and techniques. Sounds like paradise for an engineer, Marcus said, glancing at Jackson, who was deep in conversation with Nira about the colony's medical facilities. Not paradise, Elena corrected gently. But home. And sometimes, that's enough. Over the following hours, they were assigned temporary quarters in the residential district, simple but comfortable apartments designed to accommodate various species' needs. Marcus and Zara were given adjacent units, while Jackson and Nira were housed in the same building, their windows facing each other across a small courtyard. As evening fell over Sanctuary, the four found themselves gathered in the courtyard's common area, sharing a meal prepared from local ingredients by colony volunteers. The food was strange but delicious, and the conversation flowed more easily than any of them had experienced in years. To new beginnings, Elena proposed, raising her glass of local fruit wine. To finding hope in unexpected places, Nira added, her silver eyes twinkling as she looked at Jackson. To the courage to choose love over hate, Jackson said, his gaze shifting meaningfully between Marcus and Zara. Marcus raised his glass, his eyes locked on Zara's violet ones. To whatever tomorrow brings. Together, Zara whispered, completing the toast. As they drank, the twin moons of Sanctuary rose over the horizon, bathing the colony in soft, ethereal light. Around them, the sounds of a community settling in for the night created a symphony of peace, children's laughter, quiet conversations, the gentle hum of technology serving life rather than destroying it. For the first time in years, all four felt the unfamiliar sensation of being exactly where they belonged. The underground information network known as the Whisper Web operated from an abandoned mining complex deep beneath Sanctuary's surface. Kale Storm navigated the dimly lit tunnels with practiced ease, his weathered face set in grim determination. Once a respected war correspondent for the Terran News Syndicate, he'd been branded a traitor for asking too many uncomfortable questions about the war's origins. Now he served as Sanctuary's unofficial intelligence coordinator, gathering truth in a galaxy drowning in propaganda. His destination was a hidden chamber where cables and servers hummed with intercepted communications from across known space. There, waiting for him, stood Vera Nexus, a former Zalani diplomatic attaché whose elegant bearing couldn't quite hide the pain of betrayal that had driven her to Sanctuary 3 years ago. Vera's skin held the deep purple hue of the diplomatic caste, marked with the golden tattoos that signified her former rank. Her large, amber eyes, a rare trait among her people, reflected both intelligence and a weariness that matched Kale's own. They'd worked together for months, slowly building trust across the species divide, and lately, something deeper had begun to grow between them. "You look terrible," Vera observed as Kale entered, her voice carrying the formal cadence of diplomatic training that she'd never quite shed. "Charming as always," Kale replied with a tired smile, settling into a chair beside her workstation. Tell me you have good news, because I could use some. Vera's expression darkened. I'm afraid not. The data crystal your friends brought us, it's worse than we imagined. She activated a holographic display that filled the chamber with swirling data streams and interconnected networks. The conspiracy goes deeper than either government. There's a third party, a shadow organization with members in both the Terran Alliance and the Zalani Collective. Kale leaned forward, his journalist instincts fully engaged. Who are they? They call themselves the Eternal Guard. Military industrialists, weapons manufacturers, private security companies, anyone who profits from perpetual warfare. They've been manipulating both sides for decades, ensuring the conflict never truly ends. The hologram shifted, showing financial records and communication logs. The incident that started this war, the destruction of the human colony on Meridian Prime, it wasn't ordered by the Zalani High Council. It was orchestrated by Eternal Guard operatives using stolen Zalani ships. Kale's blood ran cold. 50,000 civilians died in that attack. It's what turned public opinion toward total war. And 3 months later, the supposed human retaliation against our civilian transport convoy, also the Eternal Guard, using commandeered human vessels. Vera's voice trembled with suppressed emotion. My own family was aboard one of those transports. The weight of revelation settled between them like a physical presence. Kale reached out instinctively, his hand covering hers on the console. The gesture was small, but it bridged years of conditioning and species prejudice. I'm sorry, he said softly. I had no idea. Vera's amber eyes met his, and for a moment, her diplomatic composure cracked. You couldn't have known. None of us did. That's what makes this so monstrous, they turned our grief into weapons against each other. The chamber's main display chimed with an incoming priority transmission. Vera activated it, revealing the worried face of Administrator Elena Cross on the surface. We have a problem, Elena announced without preamble. Long-range sensors are detecting a joint fleet approaching our system, both Terran and Zalani warships. They'll be here within 6 hours. Kale and Vera exchanged alarmed glances. That's impossible, Vera said. Both fleets operating together. The logistics alone. Unless they've been coordinating all along, Kale finished grimly. The Eternal Guard must have finally decided Sanctuary is too dangerous to leave alone. Elena's expression tightened. Get that evidence compiled and transmitted to every news outlet, resistance cell, and government official you can reach. If we're going down, we're taking their secrets with us. The transmission ended, leaving them alone with the crushing weight of responsibility. Around them, the servers hummed with increasing urgency as automated systems began copying and transmitting the damning evidence across the galaxy. We need to evacuate the others, Vera said, already moving toward the chamber's exit. Kale caught her arm gently. Wait. There's something I need to say, in case we don't get another chance. She turned back to him, and in the artificial light of the data displays, her exotic beauty took his breath away. What is it? These past months, working with you, getting to know you, it's been the brightest part of a very dark time. You're brilliant, compassionate, and stronger than anyone should have to be. He paused, vulnerability flickering across his weathered features. I know the timing is terrible, and our species are supposed to be enemies, but Vera silenced him by stepping closer, her hand touching his face with surprising tenderness. I know, she whispered. I feel it too. This connection between us, it's what gives me hope that our species can find peace. Their lips met in a kiss that was gentle yet desperate, full of everything they couldn't say aloud. When they parted, both were breathing heavily, their foreheads touching as they held each other in the glow of the data streams. Promise me something, Vera said softly. If we survive this, we'll find a way to be together properly. No more hiding, no more pretending we're just colleagues. I promise, Kale replied, sealing it with another kiss. They broke apart reluctantly and rushed through the tunnels toward the surface. The colony was already in motion, evacuation protocols activated, ships being prepped for departure, families gathering their few possessions. In the residential district, they found Marcus, Zara, Jackson, and Nira helping coordinate the refugee movements. "How long do we have?" Marcus asked as they approached. "Maybe 4 hours now," Kale replied. "But there's something you all need to know about this war, about why it really started." Quickly, he outlined the Eternal Guard conspiracy while Vera provided supporting details. The revelation hit each of them differently, Marcus with grim acceptance, Zara with barely contained rage, Jackson with analytical dismay, and Nira with profound sadness. "So much death," Nira whispered, her 4 hands clenched into fists. "So much hatred, all manufactured for profit." "The question now," Zara said, her voice tight with emotion, "is what we do with this knowledge." "We run," Jackson said practically. "Get as many people as possible to safety and hope the evidence we've transmitted will make a difference." "No," Marcus said firmly. "Running won't stop them. They'll just rebuild somewhere else, start another war, kill more innocents. We need to make a stand." "With what?" Kale asked. "We have a few dozen small ships against 2 full battle fleets." Marcus looked at each of them in turn, his gaze lingering on Zara. "With the truth. And with proof that humans and Zalani can work together, love each other, build something better than endless war." Zara stepped closer to him, taking his hand without hesitation. "You're talking about sacrifice." "I'm talking about hope," Marcus replied. "About showing the galaxy that there's another way." Around them, the evacuation continued, but the 6 friends stood in a circle of growing determination. Each couple, Marcus and Zara, Jackson and Nira, Kale and Vera, represented something the war profiteers had tried to destroy, the possibility of love transcending hatred. "The main communications array," Vera said suddenly. "If we can reach it, broadcast directly to both approaching fleets, show them what we've learned." "They'll destroy the array the moment we start transmitting," Jackson pointed out. "Not if we're fast enough," Nira added, her silver eyes blazing with newfound resolve. "And not if our message is compelling enough to make them hesitate." High above them, the first enemy ships appeared in Sanctuary's sky, their hulls gleaming like deadly stars. The battle for truth was about to begin, and win or lose, the galaxy would never be the same. As alarms began to wail across the colony, the 3 couples looked at each other with a mixture of fear and fierce determination. They had found love in the midst of manufactured hatred, and now they would fight to protect that love, not just for themselves, but for every being who dreamed of a future where different species could live in harmony. The truth was out there now, spreading across communication networks like wildfire. Whether it would burn away the lies that fueled this war remained to be seen, but they had given hope its best chance to triumph over carefully orchestrated hatred. Together, they turned toward the communications array, ready to make their stand for love, truth, and the possibility of peace in a galaxy that had almost forgotten what those things meant. The final confrontation was about to begin.